This workshop will explore the most common mistakes when writing a dissertation. This workshop will explore these mistakes and provide solutions. This workshop will go through the 4 most common mistakes when writing a dissertation. The first mistake is a problematic aim and objectives. The second mistake is being too descriptive. The third mistake is not engaging with the literature correctly. And the fourth mistake is academic writing issues. We will now discuss the first issue, problematic aims and objectives. You can have an aim and objectives or research questions, or you can have both. I recommend just having one aim and 3 or 4 clear objectives. You need one central aim. This sounds very simple, but it is a common problem to have an unclear aim. An aim is central to your dissertation. An aim should be one clear sentence. A good way to think about your aim is to think about your aim in 3 parts. These 3 parts make up your aim. These 3 parts may not work with every student's aim, but a majority of students can incorporate these 3 parts into their aim. The first part, the concept of your dissertation. This is the central theme of your dissertation, the subject matter. Your aim must consist of a concept. Number 2, the target. You may be looking at a target group, or a target geographic area, or a target industry, or a target sector. What are you focusing on? Number 3, you may be using a tool, or using an approach, or using a model to look at your target. These are the 3 parts of an aim. Your aim does not have to follow all 3 parts, but it must include at least 1 or 2 of these parts. So in this example, the concept is motivation. This whole dissertation is really about motivation. The student wants to find out about motivation. The target group is men and women attending professional golf tournaments, and the tool that they are using is the motivation scale for sport consumption, MSSC. In another example, the tool or method is statistical analysis. The target group is 41 biotechnology companies, and the concept is equity crowdfunding. Equity crowdfunding is their main interest. This is the main concept, the main theme, the main subject. If you notice as well, this aim is looking at the year 2000 to 2020. They are focusing on a particular time period to give their dissertation much more of a laser focus. They would need to spend time justifying why they are focusing on this particular time period. Why 2000 to 2020? What was special in this period? Why should we look at these 20 years? They need to write a good reason for focusing on this time period. And lastly, can you work out this example? PCP is the tool, part-time workers is the target group, and the concept is career or career journey. Just to reiterate, your aim needs to be focused. Do not focus on too many areas. Your aim needs to be clear. Do not overcomplicate the aim. Make it straightforward. A layman should understand your aim. Why not show your aim to your friend or your partner to see if they understand it? Your aim needs to be practical. Your aim should be conservative. Make it plain, make it boring. Do not try to be too elaborate or too fanciful or too far-fetched. Keep it grounded, keep it boring. Now I want to distinguish between your aim and your objectives. What is the difference between your aim and objectives? An objective is a step. Your aim is to reach this pink diamond at the top. But in order to get to this pink diamond, you need to climb each of the steps. The steps are your objectives to reach your aim. The steps are the areas that you need to cover to fulfill your aim. Here's another example. Your aim is to travel to France, is to get to France. In order to get to France, you have to go through a number of steps or a number of objectives. So objective 1 is to book a plane ticket, objective 2 is to pack a suitcase, and objective 3 is to drive to the airport. All three of these objectives will help you reach your aim. Here is an example of an aim and objectives. You should mention your aim and objectives in every chapter. Not too much, do not overdo it. Just a word here or there, just a sentence here or there, just to show the marker that you have a strong focus on your aim and your objectives. You want to demonstrate that you will not depart from your aims and objectives. In the introduction chapter, you should explicitly state your aim and objectives. This usually comes towards the end of the introduction chapter. I think the aims and objectives look good in bullet points, but the format is up to you. The first way is to describe the current knowledge of your aims and objectives. What has been written about your aim and objectives? What do we currently know about your aims and objectives? What is the literature, the theories, the models or frameworks that relate to your aim and objectives? The second way is to explain the literature review led you to your aims and objectives. As you review the literature, you explain that the aims and objectives came out of the literature. Your aim and objectives came out of the gaps that you found in the literature. You argue that your aims and objectives will complement and add to the existing literature. In the methodology chapter, explain how your methods will help you meet your aim and achieve each of your objectives. For example, you can justify the use of semi-structured interviews because it was the best way to fulfill your aims and reach your objectives. Or maybe a survey is the best way to cover the objectives, and so on. You can transform your aim and objectives into headings. The headings in your results and discussion chapter can be based on your aim and objectives. You can mention this in the introduction of your results and discussion sections. You can state that these sections are organized around your aim and objectives. And finally, in the conclusion chapter, connect your aims and objectives to your recommendations. Show a connection between your aim and objectives and your recommendations. Show the logic behind your recommendations. The second mistake that I saw is that many dissertations were too descriptive. Description is needed. You should always define matters, but you should lean towards analysis and criticality. Every section apart from your introduction and conclusion should have some analysis and criticality. What is analysis? Analysis is asking why. You are looking for a deeper meaning. You want to go below the surface. You want to make explicit what is not apparent. You want to make visible that which is invisible. So, when you are analytical, it's contentious. You may be right or you may be wrong. So the language that you use is cautious. You are very cautious when you are analytical. Perhaps, arguably, this could be due to this. Very cautious in your language. The opposite of analysis is description, being descriptive. Descriptive is asking what. Description is a clear description of people, places, objects, or events. You describe what is apparent to you. It is not contentious because you are describing what is apparent to everybody. You have a 95% chance of being right because you are describing what you are seeing. You are describing what is on the surface. So the language is confident. There are 45 people in this room. I didn't say there could be, or perhaps there is, or maybe there is. I'm talking very confidently because I'm describing what's in front of me. There are 45 people in this room. This is being descriptive. Here are a number of scenarios about being analytical and descriptive. Displaying graphs and tables is being descriptive. Identifying the reasons is being analytical. Describing a situation is being descriptive. Explaining how something works is being descriptive. Indicating why something will work best is being analytical. Listing information in order of importance is being analytical. Is this paragraph descriptive or analytical? This paragraph is descriptive. Is this paragraph descriptive or analytical? This paragraph is analytical. If you want to know more about being analytical, on this channel, Academic Carnival, you will find a video called Mastering Your Academic Voice for your dissertation. This video will teach you to be analytical. If you want to enhance your criticality, refer to this video, Critiquing Academic Literature. Criticality is about critiquing a scholar directly, or critiquing a theory or model or framework directly. As an academic, you should be able to critique other academics. This video will teach you how to critique directly. Number 3, not engaging with the literature correctly. This is a common problem. What I mean by this is, 1, there is a lack of citations, there's a lack of literature, there is a lack of referencing. This is very important that every paragraph should contain at least 2 to 3 references. Students will be marked down if there is a lack of literature. And also, some students may use literature generically. We'll explore both of these concepts. At first, we'll look at the lack of literature, the lack of sources, the lack of citation. Cite as much as possible. Cite at least 2 to 3 times per paragraph. And use a variety of sources. Do not keep using one source for most of your paragraph. Lee 2017, Lee 2017, Lee 2017. Use a variety of sources to show that you have read widely. And try to use recent sources, especially if you're dealing with data. If it's theory or models, then yeah, you can use older materials. But if you're engaging with data, if you want to see what's happening now, it's good to use recent sources within the last 4 or 5 years. A significant portion of your grade will be affected if you do not reference and cite adequately. You will never be penalized for over-referencing, but you will be penalized for under-referencing. The generic use of the literature. I see this as a common problem. For instance, in your methodology section, you may explain that qualitative research relies on data, and you may give a generic definition of qualitative research. This is good, this is great. It's great that you are engaging with the literature, but it's too generic. The marker wants to see how you have used qualitative research. They want to see this in blue. The qualitative approach of this study utilized data obtained from semi-structured interviews of 8 company directors. So we take something generic and we ground it and we relate it to our study. So if you are using the literature, explain the literature, define it, describe it, then apply it. You are an academic. They expect you to apply this information. Here's another example. The first stage of Lewin's change model. So at first, the student is describing this particular model. This model has a number of stages. This section is describing the first stage, defining it. It's always good to define your terms. Don't just jump in. Whenever you introduce a model or a theory, always describe it. This is good, but it's very general. We really need these linking words because we want to ground it to our research. This stage was exemplified by Amazon's 3 senior change managers to guide staff to unlearn 4 problematic habits. So this is our data in red. So we've connected this generic information in blue, and we've linked it with a linking sentence, and we've connected it to our work. This is very important. So you describe the model, define the model, then you use these crucial linking words, and then you connect it with your specific information and data. And last example, you engage with the theory. You mentioned this particular elitist theory, very generic at the moment, your crucial linking words, then you connect it to your data, to what you found, to your transcript, to your particular project. Describe the model, always important to describe the model. Don't take it for granted that they know what the model is or what the theory is or what the framework is. Always define it. Then the linking words to connect that generic model to your research, then your specific information and data. And here is an example, the theory of the model, then the linking words, then the real world example. I put real world example here, but you can put your specific data, your interview transcripts, your survey results, what you observed. So you explain what the theory is, then you want to link that with these linking words to your work. And lastly, we look at some writing issues. Avoid first person. Avoid first person. Do not write I will investigate. Rather, you should write this study will investigate. And also avoid emotive words, passionate words. The NHS is horrendous. Rather, the NHS has several shortcomings. You need to signpost throughout your work. Signposting is when you let the reader know what you are about to do. You want to explain your logic. So in this section, the student will talk about the Rana Plaza as a case study, but they need to signpost it first. They need to explain the reason, the logic, the rationale for introducing this case study. Why are they introducing it? They're explaining the logic. This is signposting. It makes your work much easier to read. You may know the reason why you're engaging with this case study or whatever you bring, but you need to let the reader know what's happening. You need to hold the reader's hand and gently guide them through each section. And another form of signposting is when you signify a transition. You go from one section to another section. Whenever this happens, it's always good to signpost. Turning now to the second issue, moving on from the definition, another significant aspect of this. And it's also good not to overdo signposting or it becomes very tedious. Just a few words here or there. Thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe.